Dad, there's a woman out there. Kent Sullivan looked past the wipers dragging across the windshield of his old work truck. For 1 second, he saw nothing but rain. Then the hazard lights flashed again. A silver sedan sat crooked at the edge of Whitaker Road, its front wheel buried in a drainage ditch. Water had already climbed above the bottom of the driver's door. A thin curl of gray smoke drifted from beneath the hood. Beyond the guardrail, an elderly woman stood gripping the wet metal with both hands. Her gray coat was soaked through. One shoe was thick with mud, and rainwater ran from her silver hair across her face. Kent checked the dashboard clock. 6:47 a.m. His final presentation for the Magnolia Landing contract began at 7:30. The project covered 42 senior apartments. If SafeStep Home Services won it, Kent could pay the workshop rent, renew his liability insurance, and stop wondering which bill would have to wait until next month. In the back seat, 6-year-old Molly leaned toward the window. Dad, she's holding on really tight. Her twin sister, June, sat beside her, quieter as always. Is the car on fire? I don't know. Kent eased off the gas. His presentation boards were stacked behind the passenger seat. The estimates had been checked twice. His work shirt was still clean. For once, nothing had gone wrong before sunrise. He had 43 minutes. She was alone in the rain. The elderly woman's hands slipped along the guardrail. Kent pulled onto the shoulder. Stay buckled, he told the girls. He switched on his emergency lights, reached behind the seat for a reflective vest, and stepped into the storm. The rain hit him sideways. He moved along the inside of the guardrail, keeping as far from traffic as he could. Ma'am, can I help you? The woman raised her head. I'm not hurt, she called, but I could use some help. Kent looked toward the flooded sedan. The car had slid nose first into the ditch. Water pushed against the lower doors, and the smoke beneath the hood had thickened. The woman followed his gaze. The dashboard went dark, she said. Then I smelled something burning. The driver's door wouldn't open, so I climbed across and got out through the other side. That explained the mud on her dress and shoe. You did the right thing getting away from it, Kent said. Did you fall? No. Did you hit your head? No. Any chest pain? Trouble breathing? Dizziness? She took a slow breath. I'm cold, embarrassed, and very tired of this morning. Her voice was steady. She knew where she was and what had happened. Kent stopped a few feet away rather than grabbing her. My name is Kent Sullivan. I used to work as an EMT. Is it all right if I come closer? The woman nodded. He moved beside her and offered his arm. Do you have a phone? It fell into the water while I was climbing over the rail. I believe it has gone to a better place. Despite the rain, Kent almost smiled. He called 911 first and reported a smoking vehicle partly submerged in a roadside ditch. The dispatcher confirmed that a fire unit was on the way and told him to keep everyone well away from the sedan. Then Kent asked, Is there someone I can call for you? She gave him a number from memory. A man answered on the third ring. This is Thomas Bell at Rosehaven House. Kent explained where he was and described the woman. Mrs. Ashford? Thomas said. Is she conscious? Is she standing? The woman leaned toward Kent's phone. I am standing, Thomas, though I am reconsidering the wisdom of it. Thomas released a breath. He confirmed her full name, Eleanor Ashford, the silver sedan, and the Rosehaven address at Isle of Hope. I'll arrange a licensed tow, Thomas said. But the storm has calls backed up everywhere. The fire department is already coming, Kent said. She's away from the car and alert. Thank you. I'll meet you at the house. Kent removed his rain jacket. Put this on. I'm already wet. You can be wet and warmer. Eleanor accepted it. Kent guided her farther from the sedan. Then he returned to his truck, moved it another 50 yards up the shoulder, and parked beyond the drifting smoke. Molly had already opened a packet of animal crackers. You can have the lions, she told Eleanor through the open door. They're the best ones. June pulled the thin emergency blanket from beneath the seat. It's not soft, she said, but it's dry. Eleanor looked from the girls to Kent. You have somewhere important to be. Kent glanced at the clock. 6:58 分. Yes, ma'am. And stopping for me will make you late. Probably. Then you should go. Thomas can send someone. Kent opened the passenger door. The fire department will handle the car. I'm taking you home. Kent, you do not know me. No, ma'am. You have your daughters with you. I do. Then why take the risk? Kent looked at the water running along the road and then at the soaked woman standing beside him. Because I couldn't leave you out here. Eleanor held his gaze for a moment. Then she climbed into the truck. Kent turned the heat up gradually and placed the emergency blanket across her knees. He waited until the fire engine arrived and a firefighter confirmed the sedan was secure. Then he pulled back onto the road. Rosehaven House stood behind live oaks draped with Spanish moss. Even through the rain, Kent could see that the home was old, wide, and carefully maintained. White columns framed the porch. Warm light glowed behind tall windows. Thomas Bell hurried down the steps carrying an umbrella. Kent parked near the walkway and came around to help Eleanor out. "I can walk," she said. "I believe you." "Then stop hovering. I'm standing close enough to catch you without making a speech about it." Eleanor studied him. "That sounds rehearsed. Former EMT. That explains the questions. It also explains why I know you're too cold to argue on the porch." Thomas reached them and wrapped Eleanor in a heavier coat. "Mrs. Ashford, your granddaughter has called 4 times. She worries professionally. She loves you professionally." Kent waited until Eleanor was inside. Thomas offered him cash for the fuel and time. Kent shook his head. "The tow company has your number. They'll update you once the car is secured. At least let us cover the trouble." It wasn't trouble. Kent turned toward his truck. His phone rang. The name on the screen tightened something in his chest. Daniel Price, the project manager at Magnolia Landing. Kent stepped beneath the porch roof and answered, "Daniel, where are you?" "I had an emergency on Whitaker Road. I'm leaving Isle of Hope now. Your presentation window closed 10 minutes ago. I can be there in 18. There was a pause. They moved ahead with low country access. Kent stared through the rain. The Magnolia Landing project had taken him 3 weeks to price. He had visited every building, measured every threshold, and redesigned 2 bathroom plans because the first architect had missed the turning radius for a wheelchair. "Did they review my final packet?" "They did. Your numbers were good. But I wasn't in the room. They had to keep the meeting moving." Kent's hand tightened around the phone. SafeStep's insurance renewal was due in 12 days. His workshop rent was already 5 days late. He had told the landlord the Magnolia contract was likely. "Daniel, I can still—" The word stopped. Begging would not reopen the presentation window. Kent drew a slow breath. "I understand. I'm sorry. Thank you for considering us." He ended the call. When he turned, Eleanor was standing just inside the doorway. Molly lowered her animal crackers. "Dad, was that the big job?" Kent slipped the phone into his pocket. "It was. Did you get it?" "No, baby." June looked toward Eleanor. "Because we stopped?" Kent crouched in front of the girls. "Because I wasn't there." "But you were helping her." "Yes. And now we don't have the job." Kent looked at his wet shoes. For a moment, he did not have the clean answer a father was supposed to have. "We may have to change a few things for a while," he said. "But leaving someone beside a smoking car would have been wrong. Losing the job doesn't change that." Molly thought about it. "So kindness can be expensive?" "Sometimes." June reached for his hand. Eleanor watched all 3 of them walk back into the rain. "Mr. Sullivan," she called. Kent looked over his shoulder. "What is the name of your company?" "SafeStep Home Services." "What do you do?" "Home safety assessments, accessibility repairs, mostly for older homeowners." Eleanor looked down at the edge of a rug curling near the entry hall. "Mostly?" "Sometimes for people who don't think they need us yet." A faint smile touched her face. Kent nodded politely and left. After taking the girls to school, he drove to the SafeStep workshop. The building had once been a small tire shop. Kent had painted the walls himself, built the storage shelves from leftover lumber, and hung his late wife's old wooden clock above the office door. The second hand clicked loudly in the quiet room. Kent opened the mail. An insurance renewal notice sat on top. The amount was higher than expected. Beneath it was a handwritten note from his landlord. "Please call me about the rent." Kent sat at the workbench and stared at the 2 papers. The business account held less than $50. There were unpaid invoices coming, but not soon enough. He had savings at home, not much, enough for groceries, school lunches, and perhaps 1 more month of the workshop if he skipped paying himself. The phone rang again. His landlord. Kent let it ring once before answering. "Mr. Harris." "Kent, I need to know what's happening. I lost the Magnolia project this morning." "I'm sorry to hear that. I can bring half the rent Friday." "That's not what we agreed." "I know." There was silence. "I can give you 10 more days," Mr. Harris said. "After that, I need the full amount." "I understand." Kent hung up. He remained seated for a long time, listening to the clock. At 3 o'clock, Molly and June arrived with Mrs. Avery, the retired teacher who helped with school pickups when Kent worked late. Molly dropped her backpack beside the desk. "Can we still have pizza Friday?" Kent looked at the insurance notice. "Not this week." "But you said—" "I said not this week, Molly." The sharpness in his own voice surprised him. Molly went still. June stared at the floor. Kent closed his eyes. Then he stood and crossed the room. "I'm sorry." Molly did not look up. "That wasn't about pizza," he said. "And it wasn't about you. Are we poor now?" Kent knelt between the girls. "We're careful now. Is that the same thing?" "Not exactly." June touched his sleeve. "Are you scared?" Kent looked toward the empty workshop. "A little." The girls waited. "But being scared doesn't mean we stop being kind," he said. "And it doesn't mean I get to speak to you like that." Molly finally looked at him. "Can we make grilled cheese Friday? We can burn the first one and call it practice." That earned a small smile. Before noon that same day, Eleanor sat in the Rosehaven sunroom with a cup of tea warming both hands. Her granddaughter stood near the window. Audrey Ashford was 35, composed in the way of someone who had spent most of her adult life being watched by employees, investors, and reporters. She wore a navy suit from an early board meeting. Her phone had not stopped vibrating since she arrived. She turned it face down. "You drove yourself to a medical appointment during a storm. It was a blood test. It was still an appointment. I have been driving since before you were born. And, yesterday you called a television remote the little black complaint box. It complains every time I press the wrong button." Audrey sat across from her. "You could have been hurt." "I wasn't." "You could have been." And a stranger stopped. Eleanor told her everything. The flooded car. The two little girls with crackers and a blanket. The father who checked her condition, called emergency services, confirmed her identity, drove her home, and refused payment. Then she told Audrey about the call on the porch. "He lost a substantial contract because of me." Did he say that? No. That is precisely why I am telling you. Audrey looked toward the rain-streaked window. She had grown up at Rosehaven after losing both parents at 8 years old. Eleanor had attended every school meeting, every graduation, every difficult first. Now Audrey ran Harborlight Senior Communities, the company Eleanor had founded. 9 communities across Georgia and South Carolina. Hundreds of employees, thousands of decisions. Yet she had not known her grandmother was driving alone in a storm. Her phone vibrated again, a message from Grant Lowell. "I moved your lunch with the preservation board. You need to rest after this morning. The car will collect you at noon." Audrey read it twice. She had not asked him to move anything. Eleanor noticed her expression. "Grant? He changed my schedule. Again. He thinks he is helping." Eleanor lifted her tea. Many people become very helpful when they want to make decisions no one gave them. Audrey did not answer. The next morning, Kent stood in the Safe Step workshop, erasing Magnolia Landing from the whiteboard. Molly and June sat at a folding table with cereal cups and crayons. Their school had delayed opening because several roads were still flooded. A dark SUV pulled into the gravel lot. A woman stepped out. She wore a cream blouse beneath a gray coat. No assistant, no driver. She walked into the workshop and looked at the shelves of non-slip flooring samples, motion lights, grab bars, and tools. "Kent Sullivan?" "Yes. I'm Audrey Ashford. Eleanor is my grandmother." Molly whispered to June. "That's the rainy lady's granddaughter." June whispered back. "She doesn't look like a granddaughter." Audrey heard them. "What does a granddaughter look like?" June considered the question. "Younger." Kent cleared his throat. "Girls." Audrey smiled. "It's all right." She turned back to Kent. "My grandmother told me what you did. I'm glad she's okay. She also told me about Magnolia Landing." Kent folded his arms. "That was my responsibility." Audrey placed a white envelope on the workbench. "I would like to reimburse you for your fuel, time, and the loss you suffered." Kent did not touch it. "How much is in there?" "Enough to help." "That isn't an answer. It is not charity. It isn't an invoice either." Audrey watched him. Kent pushed the envelope back. "I didn't stop because I expected someone to pay me the next day." "I know." "Then don't turn it into a transaction." Her expression tightened slightly. Most people did not refuse Audrey Ashford once, let alone twice. Kent saw the hesitation in her face. For one brief second, he almost changed his mind. The workshop rent sat unpaid. The insurance notice remained on his desk. He could have taken the envelope, thanked her, and told himself it was compensation rather than charity. Then he looked at Molly and June. They were watching him. Audrey picked up the envelope. "Then I approached this badly." Kent said nothing. "My grandmother lives in a house built in 1912, she continued. "She slipped on the rear steps 6 weeks ago. She was not seriously hurt, but I have been asking her to move into one of our residences. Harbor Light Senior Communities. You know the company. I work in senior home safety. My grandmother founded Harbor Light. I run it now." Audrey Ashford was the millionaire chief executive whose company operated senior communities across 2 states. Kent's expression did not change. "You're not impressed," she said. "I am. But your grandmother's staircase won't care what your company is worth." A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. "My grandmother said you were difficult. She met me before coffee." Audrey looked around the workshop. "I would like to hire SafeStep to assess Rosehaven and complete the repairs you consider necessary. You submit your usual proposal. We pay your usual rate. Who makes the final decisions?" "My grandmother, as long as she is capable of making them." "And if she rejects something?" "You explain the risk, then we respect her answer." Kent studied her for a moment. "I can inspect the house Thursday." Audrey held out her hand. "Thursday." He shook it. "If quiet acts of kindness still matter to you, subscribe to Soul Dad Stories." Audrey believed she had come to repay a debt. She was about to discover that Rosehaven needed Kent for something money could not buy. Kent arrived at Rosehaven on Thursday morning, carrying a laser measure, a light meter, and a canvas tool bag. Eleanor met him at the door. "You came back. You hired me. My granddaughter hired you. You own the house." That is what I told her. Audrey appeared behind Eleanor. "She has been watching the driveway for 20 minutes. I was observing the weather." "There is no weather. There is always weather somewhere." Kent began with the rear steps. The handrail moved beneath light pressure. One stone tread had become slick, where moss collected near the edge. Inside, he found a bathroom grab bar anchored into drywall instead of framing and a dark turn at the bottom of the stairs. Then he stopped beside the old rug in the entry hall. "This is the one I noticed Tuesday." Eleanor folded her arms. "My husband bought that rug in Charleston. The corners are curling. It belongs on the floor." Kent crouched and lifted one edge. "I can have it mounted with a recessed backing so it stays flat." "You are not taking it away?" "No. Most people who inspect this house want to remove half of it. I'm here to make the house safer, not erase your life from it." Audrey looked at him. For months, every consultant she had brought to Rosehaven had spoken about risk, relocation, and care levels. Kent spoke about staying. He finished the inspection and placed the repairs into 3 groups: immediate, recommended, optional. Audrey reviewed the list. "You didn't include a stair lift." "She doesn't need one. She may eventually." "Then we discuss it eventually. I would rather install it before there is another problem." Kent closed the tablet. "Let's make the house safer without making her feel like a patient in it." Eleanor looked at Audrey. "I like him." Audrey tried not to smile. "I had noticed." The work began the following Monday. Kent repaired the rear rail, replaced the unsafe bathroom bar, and improved the lighting along the dark hallway. By noon, Audrey noticed he had not stopped once. She placed a wrapped plate and a thermos on the workbench near him. Kent looked at it. "What's this?" "Lunch. I brought food." She looked toward the small packet of crackers sticking from his tool bag. "That is not lunch. I've eaten worse. This is soup and half a sandwich. The cook made too much." Kent lifted the thermos. "You planned the extra soup." "I have no idea what you mean." He looked at her. Audrey raised one eyebrow. "This is not reimbursement." Kent smiled despite himself. "All right." She walked away before he could thank her. That afternoon, Grant Lowell arrived at Rosehaven. He wore a dark suit and carried a leather folder. He kissed Audrey's cheek, then looked toward Kent. "You must be Mr. Sullivan." "Kent is fine." "Grant Lowell." They shook hands. Grant asked about insurance, permits, and whether Kent's subcontractors had completed background checks. The questions were reasonable. Kent answered each one. Then Grant turned to Eleanor. "I arranged a tour of Harbor Light Bay for Tuesday." Eleanor stared at him. "You arranged what?" "Only a tour. I did not ask for one. It would be useful to see the options before another emergency." Audrey looked up. "Grant, we agreed not to schedule anything until she was ready. I thought it would save time." "It is her time. Grant's expression remained calm. Of course, we can cancel. He removed his phone and did so immediately, as though the matter were too small to discuss. Kent went back to work, but he noticed Eleanor's hands had tightened around her cane. The following Saturday, Eleanor asked Kent to bring the girls. "You are nearly finished with the rail," she said over the phone. "Yes. Bring Molly and June. They don't need to be at a job site." "It will not be a job site. You are only sealing wood. They can be distracting. I am 79. I require distraction." So, the twins came. Molly entered Rosehaven carrying a deck of cards. "I know 3 games. Eleanor looked impressed. "How many do you cheat at?" "Only 1. June carried a box of sidewalk chalk. She stood in the front hall, looking up at the high ceiling. "Why is the house so quiet?" Audrey had just come down the stairs. She stopped. Eleanor answered. "Because grown-ups sometimes forget houses are supposed to make noise." By noon, the silence was gone. Molly played cards with Eleanor in the sunroom and announced every victory. June drew stars and crooked flowers along the garden path. Kent repaired an old wooden bench beneath the live oak. "It has a split through the seat," Audrey said. "It also has solid joints. So it can be repaired." Audrey watched him fit a new support beneath the wood. "What do you do when something really cannot be fixed?" Kent ran sandpaper across the repaired edge. "I try not to decide too quickly." The answer stayed with her. That evening, Audrey returned from the office earlier than usual. Kent was in the kitchen making grilled cheese because Eleanor's cook had gone home to care for a sick husband. "You cook too?" Audrey asked. Kent looked at the pan. "I apply heat to bread," Molly corrected him. "He burns the first one and calls it practice." June held up a golden sandwich. "This one is mine because I don't complain." They ate around the kitchen table rather than in the formal dining room. Eleanor told stories about Audrey as a child. Audrey protested. The girls demanded more. By dessert, Audrey was laughing hard enough to wipe her eyes. Grant arrived just as Molly was explaining why marshmallows counted as vegetables. He stood in the kitchen doorway, one hand still holding his keys. His gaze moved from the children to Kent. "I wasn't aware we were having company." "Eleanor invited them," Audrey said. Grant kissed her cheek. "I moved your Monday breakfast meeting to 7. Audrey looked at him. "Why?" "The Charleston investors arrive at 9. You'll need the extra hour. I had planned to take Eleanor to her cardiology follow-up. I asked your assistant to have Thomas drive her." Eleanor put down her spoon. "No one asked me." Grant's tone remained gentle. "I was trying to make the day easier." "For whom?" Eleanor asked. The room went quiet. Grant sat beside Audrey. "I can change it back." "Please do," Audrey said. He nodded and turned to Kent. "You are the contractor?" "Home safety specialist." Grant looked toward the girls. "And they are part of the service?" "My daughters." "I only ask because professional boundaries can become complicated in private homes." Kent met his eyes. "They are here because Eleanor invited them, not because the contract requires it." "Good, then we understand each other." The words were polite. The tension beneath them was not. Later, Audrey walked Kent and the girls to the door. Molly hugged Eleanor. June promised to bring yellow chalk next time. Grant watched from the dining room. His concern was not entirely false. Kent had entered the house as a contractor. Now Eleanor waited for the girls. Audrey came home early when they visited. The kitchen sounded alive in a way it had not for years. Grant told himself he was protecting the family from blurred lines. He did not ask why the laughter bothered him. The next weekend, Eleanor brought an old wooden box into the sunroom. June was helping her organize family photographs. Molly was stacking coasters into a tower. Audrey sat on the floor beside them. Eleanor opened the box. Inside, on faded blue velvet, lay a necklace of freshwater pearls. At the center hung a small moonstone with a pale blue glow. Audrey's hand stilled. "I haven't seen that in years. You stopped asking." Molly leaned closer. "Was it yours?" "My mother's." Audrey lifted the necklace carefully but kept it above the velvet. She wore it in almost every photograph. June looked at the moonstone. "Even when she slept?" "Probably not when she slept." "Did she wear it when you were little?" Audrey nodded. "There is a picture of us at the beach. I'm sitting on her shoulders, and this stone is against her neck." "What happened to her?" Molly asked. Kent started to intervene. Audrey shook her head. "It's okay." She looked at the girls. My parents died in a car accident when I was 8. Molly's face changed. Both of them? Yes. Then who tucked you in? Eleanor answered quietly. I did. June looked between them. So you were her grandma and her mom. I tried to be whatever she needed. Grant appeared in the hallway. His eyes settled on the necklace. I thought that was in the safe. It was, Audrey said. It should probably stay there. I wanted to see it. Grant looked toward the crayons and photographs spread across the table. It is the only piece you have from your mother that cannot be replaced. Eleanor closed the box halfway. Thank you, Grant. We know what it is. I only mean that some distance might be wise. Kent crouched beside the twins. We look with our eyes. We don't touch something that holds another person's memories. June nodded. Molly tucked both hands beneath her legs. Grant stepped back. I am not trying to offend anyone. Then you should stop before you succeed, Eleanor said. A few minutes later, Eleanor took Molly into the garden to refill a bird feeder. June remained at the table coloring. Audrey sat near the window, still holding the wooden box. Kent gathered his tools. Do your girls have anything from their mother? Audrey asked. His hand paused. A craft box. That is all? There are photographs. A few pieces of jewelry. But the craft box is what they use. You let them use it? It belonged to them before she died. Kent sat across from her. I didn't want every object she touched to become something the girls were afraid to hold. When did you lose her? 3 years ago. I'm sorry. Kent nodded. Audrey touched the lid of the necklace box. I barely remember my mother's voice. Do you remember how you felt with her? Safe. Kent looked toward Eleanor and Molly in the garden. Then that part stayed. Eleanor returned with Molly. She set the open box on the low table while reaching into the cabinet for its key. One loose end of the necklace rested near the edge. June's purple crayon rolled from the table. She bent to catch it. The metal snap at the edge of her sleeve hooked beneath the loose end of the necklace clasp. The chain lifted. Molly saw it slipping and grabbed the opposite side. There was a small metallic click. Then pearls struck the hardwood. One rolled beneath the sofa. Another bounced toward the fireplace. The moonstone pendant hit the leg of the table. A thin crack appeared across its center. Nobody moved. June stared at the empty velvet. Molly released the broken strand. I was trying to catch it. Audrey dropped to her knees. She lifted the pendant with both hands. Her face did not change at first. That made it worse. June began to cry. I'm sorry. Audrey closed her fingers around the moonstone. I know. We didn't mean to. I know. Molly's voice shook. Can Dad fix it? Audrey swallowed. I need a few minutes. Grant entered from the hall. He saw the scattered pearls and Audrey kneeling on the floor. His expression tightened. This is what I was afraid of. Kent stepped between him and the girls. Not now. Grant kept his voice controlled. Professional boundaries exist for a reason. The children should not have been placed in this situation. They were invited. And now Audrey has lost the one thing. She has not lost it, Kent said. It is damaged. Grant looked at the girls. They need to understand that some mistakes cannot be undone. Kent's voice dropped. They already understand they hurt someone. That does not change the result. No, but shaming them will not change it either. Audrey remained on the floor, holding the cracked pendant. Kent turned to her. I am sorry. She looked up. There was grief in her face, but no anger toward the children. I know they didn't do it on purpose. Kent nodded. We'll give you space. June sobbed harder. Dad, no. Kent knelt and looked at both girls. Get your coats. Molly whispered. Does she hate us? Audrey heard. Her mouth opened. But the memory of her mother, the broken clasp, and the sound of pearls hitting the floor had taken every word from her. Her silence followed the girls out of the room. The ride home was quiet. Rain had begun again, softer this time. June held her hands together in her lap. I broke her, Mommy. Kent looked at her through the mirror. No, I broke the necklace. You did. Molly turned toward him. Are you mad? I'm sad it happened. That means mad. No, it means sad. June wiped her cheek. It was an accident. Yes. Then we don't have to say sorry? Kent pulled into their driveway and shut off the engine. He turned around. An accident means you didn't choose to hurt someone. It doesn't mean the hurt disappears. June looked down. What do? We take responsibility. Inside the house, Kent opened his email. A message from Grant waited at the top. Mr. Sullivan, given today's incident, I have asked Rosehaven Security to suspend your access code until Audrey and Eleanor review the situation. Please pause all work pending written direction from the client. Audrey had been copied. Kent stared at her name. He could have called. He could have asked whether Grant had authority. He could have reminded Audrey that the remaining repairs involved a safety risk at the rear steps. Instead, he wrote a professional reply. Understood. Safe Step will pause work immediately. I will provide the completed work summary, outstanding safety items, and current invoice tomorrow. No additional charges will be added during the pause. He copied Audrey and Thomas. Then he closed the laptop. June brought the old craft box from her bedroom. Its cardboard corners had softened with age. Inside were ribbons, buttons, string, beads, and small metal charms collected by their mother. Molly held up a white bead. This can be us. There are 2 of us, June said. Molly found another. June chose a blue bead. This is Audrey's mom. Why blue? Because of the beach picture. Molly searched until she found a tiny heart charm. And this? June looked at Kent. He did not answer for her. She thought for a moment. That means her mom still loves her. They worked slowly. The new necklace was uneven. One side had more beads than the other. The knot was too large. The heart charm faced backward. June wrote the note. Her letters leaned in different directions. We can't fix your mommy's necklace. The blue bead is her. The white ones are us. The heart means she still loves you. We are sorry. Molly and June, age 6. Molly pointed at the bottom. Do we write that she has to forgive us? No, Kent said. Why not? Because saying sorry is our part. Forgiving is hers. The following afternoon, Kent drove the girls to Rosehaven. He stopped outside the gate and pressed the call button. Thomas answered. Mr. Sullivan, I have something for Mrs. Ashford. The gate code should. It was suspended. There was a pause. I'll come down. Eleanor appeared beside Thomas a few minutes later, wearing a wool coat and carrying a cane she disliked using. Thomas opened the pedestrian entrance. Kent did not try to drive inside. Eleanor looked at the folder and paper bag in his hands. Grant paused the work. I received the message. I did not authorize it. He copied Audrey. She has barely looked at her phone since yesterday. Kent glanced toward the girls. That is a family matter. You could have called me. I didn't want the girls' apology to become an argument about the contract. Eleanor looked at him for a long moment. Molly stepped forward with the paper bag. We made Audrey something. Eleanor accepted it carefully. June looked toward the house. Can we tell her sorry? Kent placed a hand on her shoulder. Not unless she is ready. The girls needed to bring this, Kent said, but Audrey should decide when she wants to see us. Please give it to her when you think the time is right. Molly's lip trembled. What if she never wants it? Kent crouched beside her. Then we still did what we could. Eleanor's eyes glistened. She touched June's cheek. I will make sure she sees it. Kent gave Thomas the completed work report and current invoice. The house key and access card were sealed inside a separate envelope marked, Hold pending written client direction. The invoice included only labor and materials already used. The report clearly marked the unfinished rear step repair as urgent. Then Kent took the girls home. Audrey was sitting in her mother's old bedroom when Eleanor found her. The pearls had been collected into a shallow dish. The cracked moonstone lay on the dresser. Eleanor placed the paper bag in Audrey's lap. Kent came. Audrey looked up. Is he downstairs? No. Why not? He said you should decide when you were ready to see them. Audrey opened the bag. The little necklace slipped into her palm. 2 white beads. 1 blue bead. A backward heart. She unfolded the note. By the time she reached the words, the heart means she still loves you, she could no longer see clearly. Eleanor sat beside her. They think I hate them, Audrey whispered. Children often mistake silence for rejection. I didn't know what to say. You could begin by saying that. Audrey fastened the handmade necklace around her throat. The string was slightly too short. The bead sat unevenly above her collarbone. She looked into the mirror. The pearl necklace was part of the love she had lost. This one was part of the love trying to reach her now. Why didn't Kent come inside? She asked. Eleanor's expression changed. Grant suspended his access and paused the contract. Audrey turned. What? You were copied on the email. Audrey reached for her phone. she found Grant's message. Then Kent's reply. Attached was his report. No accusation. No demand. No attempt to use the girl's apology to regain the job. Only the work completed, the exact amount owed, and a warning that the rear step remained unsafe in wet weather. Audrey scrolled farther. Another message from Grant instructed security not to admit Kent until Grant approved it. She looked at Eleanor. I did not give him authority to approve visitors. No. Audrey opened the family office email archive. The pattern was quieter than a crime, and older than one disagreement. Grant had asked Audrey's assistant to hold calls he considered non-urgent. He had rescheduled Eleanor's appointments without asking. He had prepared a sales valuation for Rosehaven before Eleanor agreed to discuss moving. Each decision had been explained as efficient, sensible, protective. Audrey had accepted many of them because allowing Grant to decide was easier than arguing. Now she saw what that ease had cost. Grant arrived at Rosehaven that evening. Audrey waited in the library. He noticed the handmade necklace immediately. You're wearing it. Yes. Audrey, I know the children did not mean. Why did you suspend Kent's access? Grant removed his coat. Because yesterday became emotional. For whom? For everyone. You did not ask me. You were devastated. So you made the decision. I paused a contractor's access for one day. I did not destroy his business. That is not the point. Grant's face remained calm, but his shoulders had stiffened. I have watched this become personal from the beginning. Eleanor waits for his children. You change your schedule for him. Refusing money does not mean he has no expectations. He refused money because he did not want it. People are rarely that simple. Audrey touched the blue bead at her throat. Kent lost the largest contract his business had seen because he stopped for Eleanor. He charged exactly what he completed. He returned the access card. He warned us about an unfinished safety risk even after you locked him out. That does not mean he should become part of the family. No one asked you to decide that. Grant looked away. I was trying to protect you. You keep saying that, because it is true. You scheduled a tour for Eleanor after she said she did not want to move. You changed my meetings. You told staff which calls I needed, and when something happened that frightened you, you made another decision before either of us could speak. I was trying to keep order. In our lives. Grant said nothing. Audrey removed her engagement ring. I cannot marry someone who believes loving me gives him the right to speak first every time. She placed the ring on the desk. His face lost color. You are ending our engagement over Kent? No. I am ending it because this is not about Kent. Grant stared at the ring. For once there was no efficient answer. The Ashford family's advisory agreement with Grant's firm was reviewed the following week. Audrey and Eleanor sent written notice ending the arrangement and appointed an independent company to receive the records. There was no public scene, no arrest, no attempt to ruin him. Grant lost the engagement, the advisory relationship, and the trust he had assumed would always remain. 3 weeks passed. During that time, Grant received the final transfer packet from the Ashford family office. Kent's Rosehaven report was included because the unfinished repairs affected the property records. Grant read it late one night. The report contained photographs, measurements, and a handwritten note beside the rear steps. Temporary caution tape is not a repair. Please keep Mrs. Ashford off these steps during rain until the rail is secured. Kent had written that after Grant suspended his access, there was no insult beneath it, no demand for reinstatement, only concern for the woman who had hired him. Grant read the invoice next. Kent had rounded 2 labor entries down. The following afternoon, Grant drove to the Safe Step workshop. Kent was loading handrails into his truck. Grant stopped several feet away. I came to apologize. Kent closed the tailgate. To me? To you. And your daughters if they are here. They're at school. That may be better. Kent waited. Grant looked toward the workshop. I read your report. All right. You warned them about the steps after I removed your access. Eleanor still had to use the house. Grant lowered his eyes. I kept asking what you might want from Audrey and Eleanor. And? I never asked what you had already given. Kent's expression did not soften, but neither did it harden. You owe Audrey and Eleanor more than you owe me. I know. Grant nodded toward the workshop. I did love her. Kent was quiet for a moment. Then, learn from the part of your love that hurt her. Grant absorbed that. Molly and June arrived 10 minutes later with Mrs. Avery. Molly recognized him. Are you still mad? No. Are you going to send us away again? No. June held Kent's hand. Grant crouched. I was wrong. I should not have spoken to you that way. Molly studied him. Next time, ask before you send somebody away. A small, tired smile crossed Grant's face. I will. After he left, Molly looked at Kent. Is he good now? Kent picked up her backpack. He did one good thing. That's not the same. No. But it's where people start. The next morning, Audrey walked into the Safe Step workshop for the second time. The first time, she had carried an envelope. This time, she wore the necklace Molly and June had made. Molly ran from the folding table. You wore it. Audrey knelt and opened her arms. The girls stopped and looked at Kent. He nodded. They rushed into her. Audrey held them close. I'm sorry I didn't tell you this sooner. June pulled back. Are you still sad? Yes. Because we broke it? Partly. But I missed my mother before that happened. Molly touched the blue bead. Do you hate us? Audrey's eyes filled. No. You broke a necklace. You did not break my love for you. June hugged her again. Kent stood near the workbench. When the girls returned to their drawings, Audrey faced him. Grant acted without my permission. I know. I should have noticed what he was doing sooner. Kent did not tell her it was not her fault. Audrey seemed grateful for that. I want Safe Step to finish Rosehaven. The original proposal? The original proposal. Nothing extra. Nothing extra. Kent looked at the handmade necklace. What happened to the original? A conservator is restringing the pearls. The moonstone cannot be repaired without replacing it. So what will you do? Keep the crack. Kent nodded. That sounds right. Audrey took a breath. There is one more thing. What? When the Rosehaven work is finished, I would like to have coffee with you. He did not answer immediately. I am still your contractor. For 9 more business days. Ask me on the 10th. Audrey smiled. I will. On the 10th day, she did. They went slowly. Audrey came to Molly and June's school music night and sat beside Eleanor in the second row. Kent attended a Harbor Light charity dinner and left before the cameras arrived. When Audrey checked every door twice before sleeping, Kent waited without teasing her. On the anniversary of Kent's wife's birthday, Audrey did not arrive with expensive flowers or try to change the day. She brought flour, blueberries, and the recipe card June had found in the craft box. The cake collapsed in the middle. Molly said their mother's cakes had done that too. Kent laughed harder than he expected. Later, when the girls were asleep, Audrey sat beside him on the porch. You do not have to stop missing her for me to be here, she said. Kent looked into the dark yard. That was the part I was afraid you wouldn't understand. I understand more than I wish I did. He reached for her hand. Safe Step did not survive because Audrey wrote a large check. Eleanor introduced Kent to 3 neighbors who genuinely needed home safety work. Each received the same inspection, the same written proposal, and the same fair pricing. Those neighbors recommended him to others. Within 6 months, Kent hired a part-time technician. Within 8, he stopped working every Saturday. 10 months after the morning in the rain, Rosehaven hosted a small dinner beneath the live oaks. String lights glowed above the garden. Eleanor sat near the porch wrapped in a pale blue shawl. Molly and June whispered behind a hydrangea bush, failing completely to hide. Audrey stood near the wooden bench Kent had repaired. She wore the handmade necklace. Kent approached with one hand in his pocket. You look nervous, Audrey said. I have repaired staircases in houses where the floors were collapsing. And? This is worse. Molly jumped from behind the bush. Do it now. June pulled her back. You're supposed to wait. Kent looked toward the girls. They are terrible at secrets. They get that from Eleanor. I heard that, Eleanor called. Kent turned back to Audrey. That morning, I thought I was helping your grandmother get home. Audrey's eyes softened. I didn't know she was leading 3 of us toward one. He lowered himself onto one knee. Molly ran forward, holding the ring box. Kent opened it. Audrey Ashford, will you build a life with us? Audrey covered her mouth. Eleanor wiped her eyes. Molly bounced on her toes. Say yes before Dad falls over. Audrey laughed through her tears. Yes. The girls wrapped themselves around both of them. A light rain began to fall through the branches. Eleanor looked toward the porch. We should go inside. Molly rested her head against Audrey's side. We are inside. June frowned. No, we're outside. Molly rolled her eyes. I mean, we're home. The rain whispered across the garden as Audrey pulled all three of them closer. Would you have ended the engagement or given Grant one final chance? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if this story reminded you that kindness can change more than one life, subscribe to Soul Dad Stories and join us for the next story.